What's up guys, Training by Tyler. Today we're talking about the Israetel files. It seems like we finally have the complete context on what happened. There was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of, oh, wrong draft. Actually, that's the right draft. Actually, that was my mom's draft. She uploaded it by accident. So we're gonna pick it apart, leave you with all the facts, and then allow you to be the judge and kind of decide where you think the truth lies. And of course, it's my channel, so I'm gonna interject my opinion, which in my opinion is right. So that's gonna happen too. Let's get into it. What happened? Okay, it all starts with Solomon, right? Solomon makes a video called Mike Israetel's PhD, the biggest academic sham in fitness. And what he does in this video is he got a copy of Mike Israetel's PhD dissertation. That's the document they have to write. It's like their thesis to get their PhD. And so he got a copy of what he thought was the final draft, and he uploaded a critique on it. And the critique included a lot of really valid critiques. The dissertation that Solomon initially critiqued was not up to par with what one would typically expect of a PhD dissertation, right? It was riddled with spelling errors. There were statistical errors in the data charts. It didn't really contribute any sort of new information to the field. It just kind of reiterated what was already known, which is not one of the criteria of a dissertation. A dissertation is supposed to bring its own spin to the research. So overall, it was a poorly written dissertation, and it was one that made people kind of scratch their heads and think, how did that get by? So of course, everybody takes that as complete and utter fact and hops on the Dr. Mike hate train. Choo-choo! Everyone starts dogging on Dr. Mike, saying, he's not even a real doctor. How's he preaching all this shit and he can't even write a paper? He's a fraud. He's always been a fraud. Stuff like that. Then a day or two goes by, and it seems like Dr. Mike is just gonna ignore it. Uh-oh, that's kind of a red flag that it might be true. Then we get a post from Dr. Mike on his Instagram, where he says essentially that the copy of the dissertation Solomon got was just a rough draft, that wasn't the final draft of the dissertation, and that the final draft of the dissertation had almost none, if any, of those errors that Solomon pointed out. No spelling mistakes, no statistical errors, no errors in citing. Solomon just got the wrong copy. It was that simple. He was, it was 13 years ago in college. He must have uploaded the wrong version, or the university uploaded the wrong version, or something got lost in translation. And then that's it. That's as deep as it goes. Then Dr. Mike and Dr. Milo upload a video with the quote-unquote final version of the dissertation, which had some changes to it. And they made an entire video pretty much just explaining the situation, but not on Dr. Mike's channel. They made that on Dr. Wolf's channel, Dr. Milo Wolf. Then Solomon issues an apology saying, hey, sorry, I thought that was the final draft. There was no way I didn't know it was the final draft, so I just went with what I know. And it seemed pretty cordial. He was genuinely apologetic, and Mike seemed to hold no hard feelings. He was like, yeah, you couldn't have known. I mean, you did the best with what you had, and it's YouTube at the end of the day, so it's just a lot of people barking up trees. No harm, no foul. Then once again, a day or two goes by, and we don't hear anything. Then we start getting people like Revival Fitness chiming in and saying, hold on, there's a little section right here in the dissertation that says that it was edited on October 3rd of this year. That's suspicious. Then they started pushing the idea that Dr. Mike's quote-unquote final draft that he just then recently uploaded was in fact not the final draft, and one that he had just recently edited to cover up how bad his past dissertation was. And a lot of people took that idea and ran with it. Then it goes radio silence from Dr. Mike again for like another day. And people are like, okay, so maybe that was true. Maybe he did upload an edited version, or maybe it just says it was edited because it was opened by somebody, which sometimes happens on documents. Then Mike comes out of the woods and essentially shoots himself in the foot. Not really, because I think it was the right thing to do, but he came out and said something that reflected negatively on him, which was the original draft quote, that Solomon reviewed was actually the final draft. The one with terrible mistakes, terrible mistakes, was in fact the actual final version of his dissertation that got approved by the school and made him Dr. Mike. And that the draft that they uploaded in Dr. Milo's video was actually an earlier draft that somehow had less mistakes in it. And he came out and said that on his own accord. What happens next? Then Dr. Mike makes another post, and this is a long one, basically explaining the entire situation start to beginning so people can get a better idea of like what happened in his mind and why things played out the way they did. And in this post, he blames Dr. Milo Wolf for representing one of the earlier drafts with less mistakes as the final draft in their video that then they posted together. He says he sent all the files over to Milo and that Milo found one that looked good and said that was probably the final draft. And Dr. Mike was just like, yeah, sounds good to me. Then he says he did then go to double check it and realized the one that Dr. Milo Wolf put up as the final version was actually a way rougher draft than that of what Solomon initially critiqued. Then Dr. Mike says that he talked to his academic advisor, had him send him the final version, which had most of the mistakes fixed, but just never got uploaded to the university portal. So going kind of back to the original claim he made, which is that the wrong file was uploaded there. Then, as corroboration for his story, he went ahead and he uploaded all of those files, all of the ones that got misconstrued, the final, the original, up to a Google Drive so people can download it and take a look at his dissertation from start to finish for themselves. So, what do we think about all of this? There's a lot of claims being made, and there's a lot of changing claims. It could be an accident, it could also be by design. Here's my opinion. Dr. Mike has no incentive to make sure that it goes over smoothly. He only stands to benefit by having this draw out and be confusing for people because it creates more drama. And then it creates more views, and then it creates more clicks. Not only for him, for all the people that are reviewing it. So do I think that means that he on purpose was obscuring the truth? Not necessarily. He probably was just a little lazy, which we're all guilty of. Didn't think it was that big a deal because he knew he had a final copy somewhere that was for the most part free of errors, and he just wasn't really incentivized to check it. He wasn't as careful as he should have been when double checking and handling this situation, but that I don't think he did it maliciously. And he was pretty upfront about the entire timeline of things and coming out and taking accountability on his own even when he didn't need to, which I definitely think is a good sign. But there's some nuance I want to add to this that I don't feel like most people on YouTube are talking about right now. One, they're assuming that if his dissertation was written like shit, it means anything. Guys, he's a YouTuber, right? He's also a doctor, and that's what the dissertation is for, but at the end of the day, he's an entertainer. It's not like he just came out with this big research study that challenges the current state of science and he never went to college at all. It's like the dude at McDonald's has a college degree, but he got mostly C's or D's. Even if his dissertation was written like complete crap, he's still way overqualified to be a YouTuber. Dr. Mike doesn't need a doctorate to do what he does on YouTube. What he does on YouTube right now is mostly just entertain and then give basic general fitness advice that you in no way, shape, or form need to be a doctor to give. And he's preaching to general population too. It's not like he's preaching to college athletes or Olympians. And what he's doing is getting a lot of people that don't typically think about working out in a more standardized and progressive way to do that, which is really good. Additionally, if his final version was the shit copy, that says way more about East Tennessee State University than it does Dr. Mike. The reason Harvard is an elite school is because Harvard holds their students to an elite standard. The reason Full Sail University isn't an elite university is because it's online and they don't hold their students to the same standard. So you can get their degree and it's worth less because when an employer looks at Full Sail University versus Harvard, they say, I know Harvard holds their students to this standards. I'm not so sure about Full Sail. So it's ultimately on the university to make sure that the students that are getting the PhDs are doing so to a standard that they want their university to have. And that's what gives them the prestige is, this university you have to actually try. It is normal for a human, no matter how smart they are, to take the path of least resistance. No one's putting in an extra 500 hours on something for the quality to be better when there's no one saying that that needs to be done, because at the end of the day, that would be a waste of time. So what do we have now in terms of the YouTube space? Right now, we have a bunch of people yelling at Mike saying, we don't believe you. Everyone's doing that, and everyone's acting as if that initial draft means that Dr. Mike is retarded and can no longer say anything about fitness ever. Jeff Nippard came out and defended Dr. Mike, and that also seems to have people up in arms. It's kind of the whole Julian and Hussein fake natty thing again with Jeff Nippard, where he's been caught in the crossfire a little bit, and people are saying, oh, poor Jeff, his reputation is being harmed. But I'm not sure what they really expected, because Dr. Mike is his friend, and they both make a lot of money together, so why would he come out and all of a sudden just be like, oh, well, fuck Dr. Mike? That doesn't make sense from a business perspective. That doesn't make sense from a personal perspective. And Jeff Nippard doesn't have a PhD himself, but he's trying to advance the science of hypertrophy and strength a little bit more with his muscle lab, which I think is really commendable, by the way, because our current science is not good. So why would he go and burn bridges with a doctor? People somehow think that hurts his reputation for not coming out and calling Dr. Mike a piece of shit. There's enough evidence there that you can take either side. You can either say Dr. Mike was being honest, or you can say he's a lying piece of shit. It's not super clear cut one way. It's not super clear cut the other way. Essentially, it just boils down to, do you trust Dr. Mike? So of course, Jeff Nippard is going to trust Dr. Mike, especially when he trusted that Hussein and Julian were natty. So are you guys really surprised that Jeff Nippard is going to take Dr. Mike's side? You shouldn't be. Does that speak badly on Jeff? No, I don't think so. I think you as the viewer need to reevaluate your relationship with the people you view and not expect so much from them. They're a tool to provide information, and that's a jumping off point that then you use to go research things yourself. And they're not your friend. If they do something you don't like, that doesn't affect you. That shouldn't affect you. That shouldn't affect your day-to-day life. You should take everything everybody says with a grain of salt. Look at it yourself and evaluate whether you think it makes sense, instead of just blindly taking people's words for things. All right, that's it for the drama stuff. Later this week, I got a video coming out about counting calories for absolute noobs. Impossible to mess up. So if you're looking to really make the next move in your gym journey and go from that intermediate to advanced stage, stay tuned for that video. I'm going to go over macro composition. I'm going to go over how to weigh yourself so you know when to up or drop your calories, everything you need to know so that you can't fuck it up. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to comment so that new one gets recommended in your feed, and I'll see you there.